Let's listen to a few seconds of Michelle Obama on Donald Trump.
So while I'd love nothing more than to pretend like this isn't happening and to come out here and do my normal campaign speech, it would be dishonest and disingenuous to me to just move on to the next thing like this was all just a bad dream. This is not something that we can ignore. It's not something we can just sweep under the rug as just another disturbing footnote in a sad election season.
Yeah.
Because this was not just a lewd conversation. This wasn't just locker room banter. This was a powerful individual speaking freely and openly about sexually predatory behavior and actually bragging about kissing and groping women, using language so obscene that many of us were worried about our children hearing it when we turn on the TV.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, it now seems very clear that this isn't an isolated incident. It's one of countless examples of how he has treated women his whole life. And I have to tell you that I listen to all of this, and I feel it so personally. And I'm sure that many of you do too, particularly the women. The shameful comments about our bodies.
Wow.
The disrespect of our ambitions and intellect. The belief that you can do anything you want to a woman. It is cruel. It's frightening. And the truth is, it hurts.
Wow.
It hurts. It's like that sick, sinking feeling you get when you're walking down the street, minding your own business, and some guy yells out vulgar words about your body. Or when you see that guy at work that stands just a little too close, stares a little too long, and makes you feel uncomfortable in your own skin. It's that feeling of terror and violation that too many women have felt when someone has grabbed them or forced himself on them and they've said no, but he didn't listen. Shit. Something that we know happens on college campuses and countless other places every single day. It reminds us of stories we've heard from our mothers and grandmothers about how back in their day, the boss could say and do whatever he pleased to the women in the office, and even though they worked so hard, jumped over every hurdle to prove themselves, it was never enough.
Wow. Huh. My goodness. So to be honest, 100% transparent, I had not listened to that much of the speech. I only got the first 60 seconds of the speech. And the first 60 seconds of the speech was powerful enough. But Michelle put that thing into context. And, you know, here's the problem that I have with everybody. And trust me, sometimes I get upset even with myself. So don't think I'm just being judgmental. But in order to not allow this to be a bad week for Trump, which to some feel like that equals a good week for Clinton, and in order to prevent Clinton from having a good week, most people I would say most people in social media world tried their best to downplay what came out last Friday. And they accomplished it by saying, well, these were just Donald Trump's words versus Bill Clinton's actions, right? As though a guy who's telling you that I can grab a woman by the boop, I can just do whatever I want, as though that is not almost a direct confession, right? But I'll leave that alone. But because Bill Clinton is a creep, which he is, right? The disgusting man that Bill Clinton is, people distracted away from the reality of what was said by a man who's poised, who could be the next president of the United States. And what that means to people, men and women, but overwhelmingly women, by magnitudes of order, the women who have been sexually harassed, catcalled, sexually assaulted, and outright raped. And because of Bill Clinton, Hillary couldn't say anything about it. Not for real, right? I mean, some of you may sure of that. Hillary can't say anything about it because Bill is such a pervert, right? And Hillary was complicit, or whatever you want to call her, doing in the 90s, protecting Bill, whatever. So they couldn't say anything about it. So what ended up happening is we in our own way normalized a presidential candidate being able to talk about women in this way. Not just talk about women, but talk about sexual assault in this way. We normalized it because Bill Clinton is a pervert and Hillary Clinton didn't believe the accusers. So Hillary couldn't say anything about it. So they sent out Michelle Obama to really remind us that this was not this should not be a little thing. And it should not be normalized simply because the husband of the woman running for president is a sleaze, just as much of a sleaze bag. Right. I think Donald Trump said, well, you know, Bill Clinton and I on this, you know, we go golfing, and Clinton has said worse, far worse than I ever said. I believe you. I think we can all believe that Bill Clinton is, if not just as bad, worse. Because he strikes me as a guy who thinks his power can get him anything he wants. That's exactly who Donald Trump is. So I think they probably were, when he said this is locker room talk, he probably was in the locker room talking with Bill Clinton at the golf course. Right? I get it. Both of them are just as bad. But do we take away from the reality that this happens to so many women that we probably could never know? Not only will we never know, but we could never know the number of women that have been groped, sexually assaulted, and couldn't report it because who was going to believe them? One, and two, this man is powerful. This man he's the boss. So Michelle Obama, I want to thank her for putting this back out here, because the issue itself, separate from the election, the issue itself is, no, you can't separate it from the election. I correct myself. The issue is magnified by the fact that this is a person who's poised to be the next president of the United States, or potentially could be the president of the United States. Now, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard. It is difficult. And I'll say it for me, it was difficult for me to identify with the problem, because I personally have zero understanding or connection or identification with forcing yourself on a woman. It just does not compute, right? You know, it doesn't. It makes no sense. Nor have I been one of the people who catcall and yell at women because it just, you know, my calculus is a little different. I know for a fact that if I'm hollering at a girl across the street and I'm catcalling, that there is a negative chance that she would ever be interested in me. And because my goal was always to meet a woman, see if she's interested, let's go hang out, do what we do, I would never have catcalled. It just doesn't make sense. And because I have no personal experience with it, I never knew or never conceded that it existed on the gross magnitude that it did. I never, because I never saw it. I never participated in it. And so you take it for granted that it doesn't exist until you actually talk to a woman and you ask them and you listen and you hear them. And even then it wasn't enough until I saw it myself, until I got to Boston. And I didn't see catcalling until I got to Boston and I saw it one-on-one. You've heard the story plenty of times. I won't recount it again. But I saw a guy go from zero to an orangutan to a Neanderthal in less than 2 seconds because a woman with a nice body walked by. And so it's difficult. I said all that to say it's difficult for some of us to even accept that catcalling, sexual assault, rape is a problem. It's difficult all by itself. But then when you mix it in with the cesspool of an election that we have, it's that much easier to use it as a political football to say, you know what, Bill Clinton is a pervert too. And so we completely erase the fact that there are millions of women around the world, around America, who, yeah, I mean, around the world, but in America, millions of women in America who have experienced someone doing this to them. And now hearing this from a man who could potentially occupy the White House. It's not something to just dismiss and throw away because it's politically inconvenient if you like or if you dislike Hillary Clinton, or if you support Donald Trump. It's politically inconvenient, but it's so atrocious for us to just kind of casually walk by it as though it was just a news cycle kind of thing. Because this has been, and I'll share you a story of a friend, young guy that I know, that I used to work with, who put it into context from his mom. He said that it was a point he didn't really believe it was a problem so much until his mom told him she was glad that she was getting older because finally people stopped catcalling her.